Okay guys, today we're going to be talking about some precision measuring. I'm not talking about just taking a tape measure and guesstimating how wide something is. I'm talking about using micrometers or dial calipers to figure out the precise measurement of it. The measurements we use around here is in thousandths of an inch. It's 0.001, that's 1/1000th of an inch. 0.100, that's 100,000ths of an inch. Even if those zeros aren't on there, it's still 100,000ths. So 0.1 would still be 100,000ths. Remember, zeros aren't numbers, they are just placeholders. If you take a look at these, you'll see a number on here. This one's a 0 to 1. This means it measures from 0 inches to 1 inch. This cannot measure above 1 inch. So if we had a small diameter, we use a socket here, but we know this is smaller than an inch diameter. So to get the precise measurement of it, we open it up a ways. So this one doesn't have a ratchet stop on it, so we're just going to slowly turn it till we just start to feel slight pressure on it. Make sure it's on the widest point there. So it's where we want it, so we can lock it down so we don't accidentally hit it with our hand or anything. So now we look at it here. You can see the numbers on this scale right here. So 4 is the highest number that we see shown right there. So this is a 0 to 1, remember. So our first number is always going to be a 0 on this one. Then point. We have up to 4 showing right here. So 4 is our biggest number. So we know 4 is our next number. So now we look on this other scale over here. You see these little slashes after the 4. Each one of them is worth 25. We have 2 of them showing. So 25 plus 25 would be 50. So that's another, so we put a 5 down there. Okay, so next we go to our final scale here. And you'll see zeros right there. We count the lines up. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines up. So our last number would be 4. So the outside diameter of this socket right here is 454 thousandths of an inch. 454 thousandths of an inch. Okay, so let's go to something a little bigger here. Okay, our next socket here is bigger than 1 inch. So we know we need to go the next size up, which is a 1 to 2. So 1 inch to 2 inch. So we know this one's going to start with a 1. So 1 point. Do our measurement at the widest point. Okay, we lock it down. You don't have to lock it, but sometimes it's a good idea. So we lock it down there. Okay, so 0 is the only number we have showing on our first scale. So after the decimal, we write 0. Then we got 2 slashes showing. Each slash is worth 25. So that's a 5 for 50. Then we go over to our next scale here. See 5. And 6, 7, 8, 9. So our last number is 9. So this would be 1 inch and 59 thousandths. Take your little lock off. Make sure it's free. Okay, with this socket here, again we're using the 1 to 2 mic. So our first number is 1 point. To the widest point. Okay, I didn't lock it this time just to show you can do it that way. So you see the 3 starting to show there? It's past the big line of the 3. So 3 is our next number. Okay, we don't have any slashes showing, so that's going to be a 0. And there's 0 right there on our final scale. And we count up from there. 1, 2. So there we go. 1 inch and 302 thousandths. Very simple. See, it's a lot more precise than just measuring with a tape measure. Say I wanted to measure the length of this here. So 2 inches. So looks like about 2 3/4 of an inch there. So we'll say 2.75. Okay, now let's see what the real measurement of it is. Okay, so we take our micrometer here. Okay, so this one's obviously bigger than 2. So we'll take our 2 to 3 here. This one has a ratchet stop on the end of it. So I'm going to put it there on the end. I'm going to tighten it down until I hear the click. Okay, we just clicked right there. Okay, I locked it in. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So we know it's 2 inches, 7 showing, 2 slashes after, so 5. So it was accurate that far. We just didn't know what the last numbers would be with just a tape measure. So let's see what we got here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we could have got it close with the tape measure, but this is precision measuring. This is the true measurement of it. Okay, so we could also use a dial caliper to check. This will get you pretty precise, but not as precise as the micrometer. So if you have to do a quick precision check, use your dial caliper here. So this we put on there. Okay, you can see on the scale there that we're at 2 inches right there. So our first number is going to be 2. You can see after the 2 we have smaller increments of numbers. So the 7 is showing. So 7. Okay. Then we look at our dial here. And whatever our dial is the last 2 numbers. So looks like we're at about 56. So it gave us the same number as our micrometer did. So it is a precision measuring device, but the problem with the dial caliper is you can see it varies a lot how I tip it in my hands, where the micrometer is more precise. So if I have a perfect socket like this where I could have 2 flat edges on it, I could get it where I want it to be, and pull it off and get the measurement that way. But if there's any sort of flex or anything to it, it goes kind of haywire on you. So you can get it pretty precise. The micrometer gets it very precise. Another good part about the dial caliper, you could also measure inside something. So say I wanted to measure inside this socket here, I just use the other end of the dial caliper. So I open it up to where I want it there. Okay. So I have 1 inch, 0.1, so I got 1 showing. And then looks like I got about 34. So the inside diameter of this socket, where I measured at, 1 inch, 134 thousandths. I could also measure the depth of something. I can measure how deep this socket is. On the other end of this dial caliper, you can see this part that comes out there. So if I put that over top of my hole, I'll just scroll down until I hit the table. Okay, I hit the table right there. So the depth of this socket should be pretty close to our other measurement we had here. So we had 2 inches, 0.7. And we go to our gauge, and we're at about 65. So 765 compared to 2.756. So we're about 9 thousandths difference. It's not an exact measurement because there's a lot of variation. I can't keep this perfectly perpendicular. So there's a lot of variation there. So it's not really that precise that way, but you could use it for a quick guide. This is not a clamp or anything. Remember, it's precision. Should go to 0 again once you get back there. You can adjust the dial a little bit if you need to. But don't use this to clamp something down. Don't use it as a hammer or a chisel. You know, it's only for precise measuring. Very quick, very simple. The good part about this compared to the micrometer is that you don't need multiple micrometers. This one dial caliper does exactly what this whole kit does, just not quite as precise. But it will get you within, 3 or 4 thousandths of an actual measurement. There's actually another attachment. If you want to get a more accurate depth reading, you put that on there. They give you a little more stable of a platform. That way when you do your depth reading, it doesn't rock quite as much on you, but it's still not super accurate.